Good afternoon and welcome to the workshop 4 of our Austin Internet of Things workshop series. What I'd like to have you do first, if you could go to this webpage, austiniot.com. That's where we have everything that we need for today's workshop. If you go to the Raspberry Pi Workshops drop-down and click on Workshop 4, I've created a document here that contains all of the instructions we're going to be following today. First of all, if you don't have all of the parts or pieces that you need, you could probably find someone to buddy up with and kind of look over their shoulder. The important thing today is that we all learn together. So today we're going to be learning about pulse width modulation and I²C. Yes.
Does anybody need a Pi? I brought 5. Why don't you come here and I'll let you use the Pi free. Cool.
Thanks, Carl.
You bet.
Today's lab's going to have 4 parts. We're going to start out with a brief introduction of pulse width modulation, followed by a short tutorial on I²C. Then for the second half, we're actually going to be connecting devices together, and hopefully they're going to work. Who here is not familiar or not so much familiar with pulse width modulation? Okay. What I prepared here, it starts out with a little summary about pulse width modulation. And basically the way it works is, normally devices will communicate using ones and zeros, with a 0 being a low state, 0 voltage, and a 1 being a high state. Now, intuitively, you would probably expect that to be the other way around, where 0 voltage would be a 0, and high voltage would be a 1. But I guess along the way, some room full of very smart people determined that there are more 1s in the world than there are 0s, so they switched that around. So, yes, sir.
The reason they did that is so that when the off state, it's on.
Yes.
Or like a pull-up. Typically, you'd
Right.
have a pull-up, and then you'd have to pull it down.
Right. But the reason is because when it's off, you want it to be on,
Okay,
which makes sense from a design point.
got it. So our DHT22 temperature and humidity sensor, you'll see in the diagram here, this is a snapshot of the signal that is generated by that device. It's a 40-bit signal they're grouped in groups of 8, and you'll see that the first 8 are the whole number part of the humidity reading. The second 8 are the decimal part of the humidity reading. I'm pointing with my finger like you can see it. The third group is the whole number part of the temperature reading. The fourth group is the decimal part of the temperature reading. And the last group is parity. And those 8 bits are the last 8 bits of the sum of the 32 bits that came before. And there's a little bit of more description of that here on the web page that I'll leave for your own exploration. Anyone have any questions on PWM?
That's pretty sophisticated. I mean, that's quite a bit of data.
Yeah. Yeah, I took that off of the data sheet. Okay. If nobody has any questions about pulse width modulation, we're going to be using, that's what our DHT22 uses to communicate with the Raspberry Pi. The second protocol that we're going to be dealing with today is a little more involved, I²C, which stands for Integrated Circuit. I was hoping I was going to remember that. I had it right there on the page, too.
As long as you remember I2C, I²C, yeah, that's good enough.
And I remembered to be here today. Yes, and our MMA 7660 accelerometer uses the I2C protocol to communicate with the Raspberry Pi. Now, I2C is considerably different than pulse width modulation. One of the most notable differences is it's addressable in that you can have up to 127 devices all sharing one I2C bus, and that is a limit of the 7-bit address space used by the protocol. And as you'll see, yes sir?
That's assuming that each of them have a unique address.
Okay. Can you send to multiple devices having the same address simultaneously?
Then you have collisions.
Okay, I wasn't sure how that worked.
So, you know, though the electrons are traveling down the wire at the speed of light, you'll hit one sooner than the other, and so then it will start streaming back data, and then you'll hit the other one, and then it'll start streaming back, and then you have data collisions. And so with I2C, every device on the I2C bus must have a unique address in order to prevent that.
Up to 127. So yeah, when you're communicating to an I2C device, the first, we're going to send out your start bit. You can't see my finger. There we go. You send your start bit, and that tells the bus that someone's about to send something. Then you send your 7-bit device address. Then you send a bit after that indicating if what you're about to do is going to be a read or a write. Then you pause and you wait for that device to send back an acknowledgement. And then after that, you send data and then wait for your acknowledgement. And then when you're done, you send your stop bit. Our MMA 7660 accelerometer has 5 pins. We're going to get to that a little bit later. And for this experiment, we're going to be using 4 of them. The 5th one is an interrupt pin, and we don't have any kind of lab material set up to do anything with an interrupt pin, but hopefully next time around, each time we're going to make these a little more sophisticated. So.
Is anybody not familiar with interrupts? Just to present on it. So an interrupt pin is a pin which you can then either put high and basically tells the device to stop, so that you can then issue a new command. It's very typically you'll do that for very time-sensitive things. Yeah.
Which one is used more, PWM or I2C?
I2C.
So it's the newer technology?
Yeah, I2C is the way to do it if you can.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a lot more noise tolerant.
And since we have a limited GPIO on most of these devices, the I2C is the way that you can put a bus hanging off of it and put lots of devices.
Okay, so you don't have limitations?
Yeah. Well, it does, but they're much bigger than the other way to put it.
A little bit more about interrupts. The way that works is when your CPU receives an interrupt, what it does is it halts whatever it's doing and performs what's called a context switch. It takes everything that it had in its registers and its counter and stores that on the side to free up those resources, and then it has in it an address where you've already pre-programmed a routine to perform in the case of these interrupts. So you can custom design any kind of interrupt handling routine that you like. Any other questions on interrupts?
Now, I assume you shake the accelerometer, you shake it, and then it sends the interrupt and does interrupts, I assume,
If we were using it,
if we were.
yes. And the advantage there would be to save power. Because then when it's not doing anything, it would probably be in a sleep state. Gotta slip in my bad pun of the day. Feel free to interrupt me at any time. I have a whole series of interrupt handling routines.
Now, we did
That
talk,
was one of them.
we did talk a little bit about software interrupts in the last one,
Yes.
on the software side of it, but you can also have hardware interrupts.
Which are a whole lot faster. Okay, so if there are, wait, I should report it. Okay, I already covered all of that. Okay, so now it's time to jump in and, oh wait, before we move on to doing, hardware stuff, does anyone have any questions on, the PWM or the I2C protocols or how they work? Does everyone understand how that works? Does anyone awake today?
The I2C,
Yeah.
when it says the device address, that's always 7 bits, right?
Yes.
So that's how it knows that the next one is, how does it know the difference between when the device address ends on the read left write? That's because it just sends 1 and then it sends 7. It knows the first one start, it knows the next 7 are an address, and then the one after that is if it's a read or a write.
Is a read or write,
And then it waits.
and then it waits.
And then how much data can it send in one message? Is it always 7-bit message for the data?
That, I'm not.
That
completely sure.
depends on the device.
I think, yeah.
So it's waiting for a certain amount of bits and that.
Well, that's what's in that data payload.
Fixing.
So
And I-
it depends on the device. This little temperature and humidity sensor I got from SparkFun sends a timestamp, comma delimited, humidity number, comma delimited, temperature number. So boom, boom, boom. And you can have devices that have much bigger payloads.
So they can do whatever they want, okay.
And I think you can keep sending this, as long as you send it, was it 1, 2, 3, 4?
Hey Dave, what's the password for the Austin IoT?
It's Austin_IoT, all lowercase. Sorry. I think as long as you keep sending, your data 8 bits at a time, waiting for an acknowledgement each time, you could probably just keep communicating indefinitely, right? Until you send a stop bit.
Yes.
So you're like an open screen until you say stop.
Yeah.
If you're playing around with like Arduino or something, you can actually use the 9600 baud terminal and then terminal the thing. It just sits there and spits. So with the I2C, you're actually using a protocol to talk to it, so it packetizes it. And so it's much easier to manipulate, handle, and stop and start that.
Yeah, depending on the API, you can say, listen for this number of bits, in return, and then once you get that number of bits, then you can then break that message out. So typically with like I2C, you'll ping the device, but then you'll also tell it to access a specific register. And depending on that register, you'll have to, excuse me. Depending on the data sheet and the data that's stored in that register will determine how big that payload is.
That was one thing that I didn't include, was accessing the registers by I2C. Sorry, I'll have to add that for the next go around. Yes, sir.
So the pod, it pings the immediate sensor, and the immediate sensor sends data back.
Yes. When the Pi sends out the start bit on the bus, then all the devices understand that something is about to come, and the next 7 bits are the address of the device that it's trying to reach. So that device recognizes that address when it gets it, and then it reads the read-write bit, and once the device has processed all of that, it sends back a single acknowledgement bit, and that tells the Pi that yes, you're connected to me now. And then when the Pi receives that ACK bit, then it says, okay, here's what I wanted to send you, and then it sends the data. And it's not really indicated in this timeline, but this timeline only shows 1 byte of data being transmitted. But as long as the stream consists of 8 bytes, a pause, then the receiving device sending an ACK bit, that they can keep repeating that indefinitely until the Pi sends a stop. bit, which is, I think, the act bit is, 0, and the stop bit is, high, right? In that position? Yeah.
Let, cool down.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
All right.
So, sorry, this is a basic question, but does the master have to control every byte of transfer from the slave, or can the master do a request that say, could it generate
When,
20 bytes of response?
when the
without-
master sends a stop bit, that's telling the device that I'm not gonna receive, I'm not gonna listen to anything else that you send me.
But if you set up the protocol on the Pi and you just use the protocol, it's gonna build stuff. You're not gonna have to worry about that unless you wanna go play down on that level.
Right, right.
So it's just basically just fill up a buffer with whatever that device is sending. And you don't need to care too much about this. So it's nice
Unless
to
it does.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right,
But
okay.
that's the mechanism, it's just streaming data in 8 bits at a time.
Any other questions? All right. Okay, then let's start to jump in here. Is everybody connected to your Pi? Is anybody not connected to your Pi? Okay. Do you, are you on your way to getting connected?
This one doesn't have the
Okay.
software on it. This one does.
Okay.
Anybody got an extra keyboard?
Ah,
I'm gonna go grab one from the shop.
I was gonna bring one too. Probably should have.
Thank you, sir.
We've had some changes to our GitHub repo lately. Up until now, all of the GitHub repo, the sample code for the workshops has been graciously donated by Cameron, and it's been on his Candid Cipher account. But what I've done over the last week is we have our own Austin IoT GitHub, and I took a snapshot of what Cameron's done to this point and combined it with what I've done, the code that I made for Workshop 4, along with the piece that Alan generated or donated yesterday or this week, and I put them all together. So now we're gonna have to grab that, get connected to that new GitHub account, and you'll see that right here.
Yeah, and I tried that, and I'm having difficulty with that.
What kind of difficulty?
Syntax error.
Permission is not a given.
Permission,
Oh,
yeah.
okay, I'm saying.
Should be a public repo.
Can I just snoop the, so I have the file from the old one, I just do arm to arm
Yeah.
directory and.
Unless you've made changes that you need to save.
Yeah, that's probably the easiest. Now, in the future, we are, so the next run of the code, we're gonna talk about Python virtual environments and Git commands. But, yeah, the easiest for now is just to remove it and then pull our fresh copy, especially awesome.
Does anyone else have, did anyone else have problems getting out the GitHub code?
I couldn't, it didn't work for me.
No? Alright, I'm gonna try to duplicate it here.
Well, you might, as being the author, you probably have all the permissions set up, but maybe.
If it's a public, if it's a free account, all of your repos are public.
Well, it's not a free account, but it's in a public repo.
Oh, okay. Yeah, if it's a public repo, anybody should be able to load it.
It's a 2-pin, for I2C or here on this, I think they're right here on this.
You can just bear with me a second, I'm gonna try to figure out what's going on with the GitHub.
Yeah, I just started making one. Yeah.
Mention
That's
it there.
one of the tips. Cool. So, we should
Oh, okay, our Austin IoT router's connected to the internet, right? Might it have to be sudo?
No, I just did git clone, I just git clone and then I did the HTTPS address, copy it off the site, and it worked just fine.
Oh, do I have the wrong link in here?
This stuff. I don't think I have to do it anymore.
Oops.
No.
You're saying use the HTTPS one?
Yeah, I just copied that, just git clone and pasted that in.
Yeah, try the SSH and your keys aren't set up, it's gonna not work.
So it did only bring us workshop 1, 2, and 3.
It should have forms that was the,
Didn't bring 4 out. Oh, I cloned the wrong one.
Let's try this again. The Austin IoT user name for GitHub, all one word.
Okay, so I seem to be getting here.
it's the Austin IoT Workshop -2,
Got
right?
it, yeah.
4.
4? Oh, no, but the repo?
Just like.
Cancel it.
Just like it looks.
We don't need the color,
Right.
just use the same way we did.
So, you don't need to get add.
I'm gonna update that on the page real quick, to give you one here. Shoot. I'm gonna need to unplug this for a second. I'm about to access something I don't necessarily wanna share with the world here. Y'all don't wanna see my baby pictures anyway.
Oh, I don't know. I'm sure when those are playing, you don't know. I mean, to be real honest with you, there's no real reason if you have an I2C device to do it. In that growth that you've got code, you use the growth app, and they've already done a bunch of shit for you. I think that you can get directly to that. I don't have one for myself, but I know that he's got one that's got makes it easier to roast. So all the shit is kind of share.
Alright, sorry about that.
That's good.
Well, the sensor itself is generating electrical pulses, right?
What is it,
Rule 41. There's a little bit of memory, and then it has the ability to fill up these registers. There's a
Yeah.
big thing that and then it does context switch, and then it sends 8 bits.
Remember how I did that back on the screen, Cameron, how did we do that?
Do what?
Step back on the screen.
That to you.
You
looks
went
like
to your
streaming
display settings and then,
just streaming.
there's a checkbox to combine or merge display streams or something.
Well, it's gonna come in as,
And that was git clone, right?
Yes, so yeah, you need the HTTPS ://git.git or git.git/austin-t/austin-ip.
All I gotta do is get it back on the big screen and we'll be back in
it's
business.
You're halfway there.
same thing with this protocol. This, I figured this end stuff, it's just.
Yeah, so he forked what I had, because earlier I wasn't a contributor to that repo, so I couldn't push to it. So he just cloned what I had, so I need to change my setup so that future
Giving you a
pushes.
actually here. The picture of those working in it.
All right. Okay, sorry about that. If you'll notice, I have updated the link, and now it is correct. So, has everyone gone ahead and pulled from that repo to your
Yes.
Pi? Okay, good. Now, the next thing we need to do is either install or make sure that you have installed, excuse me, a couple of packages here. And one note is that if you already have these packages installed, performing the sudo apt-get install steps will not cause anything bad to happen. It's just going to tell you that it's already installed and if it's up to the latest version. So if you could go ahead and run install these programs. These should be on a separate line.
Oh, and there's more too. I guess you come in later and get more.
Yeah, there are a couple more we're gonna have to get when we get on to the accelerometer.
Yeah, and then line 5,
My
I
chip
can
is
see our
sending. Okay, so it's literally ASCII, C, ASCII, ASCII, colon, space. The time scale, and then the temperature, and then the humidity. So this is the terminal program. With this
I
thing
did his
screwed
other
on.
ones. I didn't do these. I think these are.
Well, when it gets power, it just starts screaming.
before you close out of that,
The IC, you can.
go back to line number 5.
Yeah.
There is using the following command.
Put those in
You can
packets,
say
so that then it's being sent to the
There you go.
packet.
And then
Right here, you're downloading the software, right?
Can you tell we're making this up as we go along?
It's better.
Okay, so you're downloading that.
Looks better already.
Operating system.
having been on the other side, I know how much time these
And
take.
looking for the
Okay, so,
formatted packets
Oh, it
coming
didn't
in,
collect
and then the payload is this stuff.
what's that? Oh, wait, we got one more here.
So,
That was on
it's
4.
more than to say it's 8 bits, because that's, you may just do that.
I think it took.
Right. But they're coming in really fast, it's done them all. Well, it is, but it's interpreting through the protocol, and then with the code, it's actually interpreting that as a T. Yes, it is.
Okay, so has everyone run this line? apt-get install, build essential Python dev, and Python OpenSSL?
I can enable locate package,
Okay.
Or which package?
all of them. Oh no, build essential, Python dev, and Python OpenSSL.
Shouldn't that be sudo apt-get install Python? Oh no, build essential, that's your C compiler stuff. Python dev, that shouldn't have a problem. Yeah, Build Essentials, like C make and stuff, right?
They're compilers, right?
Yeah, that's compiler stuff. What happens if you run them individually? So if you just do sudo apt-get install build essential.
Oh, yeah. Individual works. You do it each by each. No.
Okay,
I think it is those hyphens aren't hyphens. When I get a copy and paste,
Oh.
Oh.
it complains that those aren't dashes.
yeah,
Oh,
those
that's
are
a typo thing.
probably different UTF-8 characters. Yeah, if you could replace those dashes with keyboard dashes.
There we go.
Yeah. Oh.
Damn you,
Or like, damn you, UTF-8.
Yeah.
Why is
Those
my
are-
phone in text?
Those are German dashes.
Yeah. Well, you know they get sued.
Who's getting sued?
VW,
All right, does everyone have the libraries on step 4 installed?
We'll see how that goes.
Does anyone not have the libraries on step 4 installed? Okay, what kind of issues are you having?
It's just still working.
Oh, still going? Okay. You-
Time.
Sorry?
My issue is time.
Oh,
Not
okay.
getting caught up.
All right. We'll give it a second. The last thing you want to do after you install those is sudo apt-get update,
And why? I wanna ask why.
because that's what the instructions say.
So after you do the sudo apt-get update, you do a sudo apt-get upgrade?
Yes.
Okay, so then probably it's probably just to refresh your repo listings so that if there are any updates from the last time Build Essential was added to the Debian packages. So you're just making sure that you have the latest of those packages you install. Because when you install them and then you go back and do an apt-get update and apt-get upgrade, it will then upgrade those packages if there are updates available for them.
Now, that's what, so it only applies to those packages, not everything else.
Well, also, it'll apply to everything else.
So
It's
that'll
just
kill the bandwidth.
if you haven't run updates recently.
So if it comes back into the normal and used version, I have to work.
Correct, yeah, you're fine.
And I was confused, I was thinking that was upgrade. Oh, no, that's update, yeah, that's, never mind, I'm confused.
Hey, do we have any Linux aficionados, like Linux IT people that would be interested in like talking about like Linux package management? Okay. Maybe that's something that I'll do later on, as a little side note.
Yes.
Do yourself.
Under number 4 in the instructions,
Uh-huh.
you have what looks like a chopped off sentence also for the accelerometer and then nothing after that.
Yeah, if you refresh your page, that should go away.
Thanks for calling IT. Have you turned it on and off again?
Have you been watching the IT crap?
Okay, is everybody ready to continue?
Good so far.
All right. What I've got here is a snapshot of the header of the Raspberry Pi, which highlights a few of the pins that we're going to be using. All in there. And we're going to be referring back to this again for when we get down to the accelerometer. So please remember that this is here, and all you have to do to remember what pin you're going to is just scroll back up to this image. Another thing that I did this week was, a lot of people are always asking, where's the parts list? Where's the parts list? Well, I went ahead and made I gave the parts list its own page.
Yeah.
I don't know if everybody's seen that or not, but I can show you real quick. The way you get there is, if you go to Raspberry Pi Workshops, Workshop Parts List.
And those be purchased from like Radio Shack or Fry's.
Basically anywhere you can get them, and I make a note of that in there, that it really doesn't matter how you get these parts. The important thing is that you get the right parts, and the right model numbers. I adjusted some of the pricing too. I went through and priced all of these, and I was able to find some slightly more reasonable prices. And probably can look to this to change from time to time as new vendors come along, or old vendors stop selling these. So, and if anyone ever notices in here any of these links go dead, please let somebody know so we can update it with something new.
Yeah, I know that the original parts that I listed were all Olive Express, those links go dead pretty fast. So thank you for updating that, David.
Sure.
And so that parts list, that is directly on the webpage?
It's on the webpage under the Raspberry Pi Workshops drop down button.
It's almost at the top.
And has everyone had a chance to review the Workshop 1 notes page that I put up there?
Say that again?
Has everyone had a chance to review Workshop 1 notes?
1, 2, 3. I saw that.
I don't know if you can see that.
That's taking Kurt by interrupting.
That's our joke of the day right there.
Thank you.
Anytime.
Keep it live.
Okay, so that covers our parts list. For this workshop, we're gonna be doing the hardware in 2 pieces. First, we're gonna hook up the DHT22 temperature humidity sensor and run that code. And then after that, we're gonna go ahead and connect the 7660 accelerometer and run that code. I've created here little materials for the thermometer thermostat portion of it, and also a diagram outlining the pinout of the device. And as you can see here, pin 3 is not used,
So that's a sensor.
so don't use pin
That's the
3.
jumper there.
Yeah, then the plane will fly upside down.
That's, I got it. You show the tab on the top, and I have the tab at the bottom. I think.
I thought about the best way to show that, but in the end, I put these images up here, but at the same time, I actually have a living, breathing one right up here at the podium. So if at any point anybody wants to come in and see a little closer, you can come on up here and take a look at this one. And I've also included a snapshot of this one along the way. For the next steps, what I followed, they used, I found out it's actually not a 10K resistor, it's a 4.7K resistor,
For sure.
but the way I interpreted it, I think either one would work. But I've actually brought some 4.7K resistors here to build your circuit, if you haven't built your circuit already. Who here has already built the circuit?
But I do need a 4.7.
Alright.
I did a 5K.
I need to install.
Did it work?
Well, I haven't tested that yet.
Oh, okay. Here.
So this is the little interface that you use for ITC.
Anybody need a 4.7K?
It's detect on so this is GPIS, right? And one of these will go on.
And I'm not sure, but I think it might work without it.
But they recommend, they recommend.
ID number of
I'm
the
saying that 'cause I think I only have like 50
And it's
resistors.
one
Okay.
It'll be over here someplace, right?
I got some more here, Cameron, and you need
Where it
it.
is on the breadboard, or where it is logically for it.
Okay, so to hook this up, I prepared two different means of guidance here. The first one is in text at the top. Since there's only 4 pins, it was kind of easy for me to just verbally explain where they go. It just gets a little tricky when you start working in the resistor.
But it's
So that's why I included this image. Now, pin 1 is easy. Pin 1, you just got to get that back out to the 3.3 volt output on your Pi.
And you can change that.
And that you will find right here at pin 1.
No.
And this image also shows the orientation for it. And if you look right there,
256.
where it says P1, those are all indications of where pin 1 is with the board in that orientation.
So anyway, that's a 4-digit.
So if you could go ahead and get pin 1 connected up to, or, I'm sorry, pin 1 of your DHT hooked up to 3.3 volts on the Pi. I think you probably want to have your Pi powered off for this. Probably a good idea. Although I'm not really sure if it is, right?
Not really, it's always a good thing to do just to make sure that you don't short any of the pins. If anybody had like a first gen Raspberry Pi, you had a much higher probability of killing your entire board by shorting pins. Now they have a little bit better circuit protection built into the chip as well as on the pins, so it's just a best practice to make sure that nothing's powered with that stuff.
Yeah, it's not colored, right?
Well,
Okay, and
so I don't have the power pins going.
let's go ahead and do pin 4 right away, because after that, there's only one pin left.
4 pins.
Pin 4 just needs to go to any ground on your Raspberry Pi header.
I'm not seeing it.
We'll go back up to the image. For ground, you have
This
many
does have
choices.
the I2C software.
You got pin 9,
So when we get
pin 25,
then
pin 20, pin 14. Any one of those would work.
oh, yeah.
In fact, if you have a newer Pi, you probably have a couple more, because this is a Raspberry Pi A. Oh, this is 2, but it's not the, yeah, this is a B, this is
It's a
a,
2D.
because it still has the audio jacks.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, everybody have your ground hooked up? Alright. Now, here's where things get just a little bit tricky. You'll see in my picture here, the yellow lead that comes out. Now, one thing I gotta point out about this picture, you're looking at the back of the DHT22, the way it's oriented. So, pin 1 is here, and they go 1, 2, 3, 4 into the screen. Alright. And you'll notice that I have my yellow lead, that connects to pin 2 on the DHT, but you'll notice that in between that connection is where I have one end of my 4.7K resistor. Try to zoom in on that. So this is the lead that goes to the Pi, and in between that and your DHT is where you want to put that resistor. And then the other side of the resistor goes to your 3.3 volts rail.
So it acts as a pull-up.
Yeah.
No, I'm using 3.
That's right, because it's inverse logic.
3.3 round.
It's high when it's off, it's low when it's on.
Yes.
I think this thing is brutal.
Does everybody understand what I'm doing here?
It's really
Alright.
robust.
Now, the other end of that yellow lead goes to pin 7 on the Raspberry Pi header.
This is
And that is also GPIO 4. Right here.
But it's part of that grow right thing, and that's cool. I like that. I've got a employee who's totally.
We'll hold off a second for everyone to get that hooked up.
It'll be good this weekend. Part of the fashion show. You'll meet him. He's nuts. Last weekend.
Oh, and again, if anybody wants to see what it looks like, I got one right here. I got jumpers.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, we got all the jumpers that we could ever, we have enough jumpers to start an army up here, so if we need any, that's male to female. I was a little disappointed that my 100 male to female didn't come in all the colors the way the other ones are.
This is down the road.
Yeah.
There's the
Karaoke afterwards.
Right.
Okay, does anybody not have their circuit connected and hooked up? Okay,
I'm trying to see where the resistance, so
But I,
this
the thing I did.
let's go back down.
goes from pin 3 to power.
Yeah, so it's a pull-up resistor.
Let you get.
The resistor goes to pin, between pin 2 and power. Don't be misled, don't count 1, 2, 3, because pin 1 doesn't start until the second one. So that resistor is actually going into pin 2. I'm not sure if that one's okay.
Hit one.
No, the power standing.
Does everybody have a 22?
I got your resistor.
Well, I'm using the sport phone. I've already got the other two.
No, I was gonna see, I've got more in case somebody needed them.
Yeah, I'll take them. I mean,
Okay, does everybody have, everybody all hooked up?
Oh,
When you say pin 7, you mean the GPIO 7 or the literal, the physical pin 7?
Physical pin 7,
Okay.
right here.